Have you ever witnessed a moment so shocking, so devastating, that it seemed to freeze time? Picture a dazzling mansion illuminated by crystal chandeliers and echoing with hushed whispers. At the heart of this grand estate stands a pregnant woman on the brink of collapse, tears glittering on her cheeks like shards of broken glass. Across from her, a beautiful but calculating mistress delivers a lie so poisonous it changes everyone's fate. And in the center of it all is a powerful millionaire, silent, unmoving, watching as his entire life unravels. Brace yourself for the tangled web of secrets, betrayal, and heartbreak that awaits. On a crisp autumn morning, the sprawling estate of Alexander Whitmore shimmered under the golden rays of the sun. The Whitmore mansion, an architectural masterpiece blending modern luxury with classic ivy-laced walls, was a testament to one man's extraordinary wealth and ambition. Marble columns and sleek glass windows caught the light, reflecting both the promise and peril of the life within. In the grand foyer, Sarah Whitmore. Alexander's wife paced anxiously. She was 4 months pregnant, her softly rounded belly an unmistakable sign of their soon-to-arrive child. Her hand draped protectively over the small bump, an instinctive act that seemed to say, "This child is my responsibility, my future, and my hope." By all external appearances, Sarah led a life of opulence. She had grown up in a humble home, winning a scholarship to an elite university, where she eventually met Alexander. He was the scion of a powerful real estate dynasty renowned for his ruthless business strategies, intelligence, and charm. Drawn to each other in a whirlwind romance, they married. But behind the glossy veneer, cracks were appearing. The staff moved busily around Sarah, cleaning, dusting, and preparing for the day's extravagant gatherings. This was part of her life now, socializing with corporate elites, hosting upscale soirees, and presenting a flawless image to the press. Yet a nagging tension had taken hold in Sarah's heart. Where was Alexander? She'd awakened alone that morning, his side of the bed, cold and untouched, since some mysterious hour in the night. She had tried calling him, but he'd ignored or dismissed her concerns with a curt message, "I'll be home later." Her mind flashed back to subtle shifts in his behavior over the past few months. Late-night meetings, missing dinner, mysterious phone calls in hushed tones. Sarah told herself she was overreacting, letting pregnancy hormones amplify her insecurities. But deep down, her intuition sounded the alarm. Something was off, and she couldn't ignore the knot of dread forming in her stomach. In the distance, the heavy oak front door opened with a flourish, and Alexander Whitmore stepped inside, exuding an air of authority, even as his tie hung loose around his collar. Tall, with a commanding presence, softened by sculpted features, his dark hair was slicked back, still damp from the light drizzle outside. He never revealed exactly where he spent his nights, only half answers and deflections. "Good morning," Sarah offered, her voice trembling with concern. Instead of greeting her with his usual warmth, Alexander simply nodded. He was already on a business call, gesturing impatiently for her to wait. The hallway staff scurried away, understanding that Alexander's return often signaled tension. After several minutes, he hung up and regarded her. "What's the matter, Sarah?" Her heart skipped a beat. She could never quite get used to his coldness when he was in business mode. Did the man I fell in love with vanish beneath these layers of power and secrecy? "I was worried," she admitted softly. "It's not like you to stay out all night without letting me know." Alexander's gaze flickered with irritation. "There's a lot going on. The deal with the Donovan's property expansion's just too many moving parts." His tone softened for a moment. I'm sorry if I worried you." Sarah felt the dissonance between them acutely. She longed for honesty, to lean on him for emotional support, especially now. But she sensed he was miles away, locked in a world of corporate dealings she could only glimpse. And so she swallowed her questions, forging a smile to keep the peace. Out of nowhere, a voice from the kitchen startled them. "Mr. Whitmore, your mother is on the line." Alexander sighed. "I have to take this," he murmured, brushing past Sarah without a backward glance. As she watched him disappear into his study, an indescribable sadness settled over her. In that moment, she could almost envision the plush gilded bars of her own cage closing around her. She'd built her life with Alexander, believing in love and trust. But now she found herself standing alone in an echoing mansion, pregnant, anxious, and uncertain. She closed her eyes and whispered to her unborn child, "Stay with me, little one. No matter what happens, we'll face it together." Little did she know the days ahead would test her in ways she'd never imagined. Deceit, betrayal, and heartbreak were closing in, threatening to engulf her world. She had no idea just how close the storm had come, or that it was about to break, shattering the fragile illusions she'd spent so long clinging to. A week later, Sarah found herself restless again. Despite the comfort of the Whitmore mansion, every corridor seemed more like a hallway of secrets than a warm home. Alexander's distant attitude had increased her suspicions. Late one afternoon, she mustered the courage to approach her confidant, Elise Banning, her best friend since college. Elise had always been there through heartbreaks, finals week, breakdowns, and the earliest days of Sarah's marriage. They met in the estate's expansive rose garden, meticulously tended by a small army of gardeners. The sun hung low, painting the sky with shades of amber. Sarah lowered herself onto a bench, wincing slightly at the discomfort in her lower back. Elise's eyes darted to the baby bump with concern. "You look pale, Sarah. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, I think." "Just anxious." She took a breath. "Elise, I need to tell you something. But I'm scared. I'm scared I'm losing my mind." Elise leaned closer, her long auburn hair shifting in the soft breeze. "You can tell me anything." Sarah hesitated, then whispered, "I'm worried Alexander is having an affair." It was the first time she'd uttered those words aloud, and they rang in her ears, too stark, too real. Elise's face filled with empathy, but she didn't look surprised. She gave Sarah's hand a squeeze. "Why do you think so?" Slowly, Sarah recounted all the subtle changes: Alexander's late nights, cancelled vacations, furtive phone calls, that hollow emptiness whenever he entered a room. Elise nodded thoughtfully. "You're not paranoid, Sarah. This is suspicious. But am I just being a jealous wife? Maybe it's the stress of his business deals. I'm pregnant, my hormones are off, my emotions are everywhere. I don't want to accuse him unjustly." Elise took a moment. "Have you tried talking directly to him?" Sarah's voice quavered. "He either deflects or gets annoyed. I don't want to drive him away or push him to hide even more." Elise stared out at the carefully trimmed hedges and blossoming roses. "Look, you have every right to ask. This affects you and the baby. If it's a misunderstanding, he should clear it up. If it's real, well, you need to know." Sarah touched her stomach, feeling the gentle flutter of her unborn child. "You're right. But I'm terrified." Determined to confront the issue, Sarah planned to speak with Alexander that evening. She even prepared a simple dinner, her way of coaxing him to relax and talk. But as hours ticked by, her anxiety deepened. Alexander never came. At midnight, the front door finally creaked open. Sarah, seated on the living room sofa, pretended to be scrolling on her phone. She could smell the faint trace of expensive perfume on him, a scent unfamiliar and undeniably feminine. "Hey," she called softly, noticing his disheveled suit and the way his hair was mussed as if by someone else's fingers. "Long day." Alexander turned his head sharply, as though he'd forgotten he had a wife waiting at home. "Yes, I told you these deals are complicated." Without waiting for a response, he walked toward the staircase. Rising to her feet, Sarah followed. "Alexander, please can we talk? Just for a minute." He stopped on the stairs, shoulders stiff. "About what?" Sarah inhaled shakily. "About us. About what's going on. I'm tired, Sarah. We'll talk tomorrow." And with that, he continued upstairs, leaving her standing there, fists clenched in frustration. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she swallowed them back. Tomorrow. She would hold him to that promise. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at his back, she silently vowed to uncover the truth, no matter how painful. Despite Alexander's empty promises, he continued to evade any serious conversation. Sarah's suspicions grew heavier, like an anchor dragging her heart to the depths of uncertainty. Even the staff noticed her muted demeanor. The once vibrant lady of the mansion seemed a pale echo of her former self. One afternoon, Sarah decided to visit Whitmore Holdings, Alexander's corporate stronghold. She told herself it was simply a surprise lunch visit, something supportive wives do. But the nervous flutter in her stomach told her she had another motive to see for herself what Alexander was up to. She packed a basket of homemade sandwiches and some fresh fruit, determined to play the role of a caring spouse. Maybe, just maybe, Alexander would be pleasantly surprised and open up. Whitmore Holdings occupied a sleek, glass-wrapped skyscraper in the center of the city, a symbol of power and prestige. Upon entering the marble lobby, Sarah felt uneasy. She flashed a polite smile at the receptionist, who immediately stood and gave her a respectful nod. "Mrs. Whitmore." "It's lovely to see you," the young woman greeted. "Would you like me to inform Mr. Whitmore you're here?" "Yes, please. I brought him lunch." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice quivering despite her forced smile. Moments later, the receptionist glanced up from her phone and said, "He's in a meeting, but you can wait upstairs in his office. Ms. Donovan is also there." Sarah stiffened. "Ms. Donovan? You mean Mia Donovan?" "Yes, ma'am," the receptionist said brightly. "She and Mr. Whitmore have been in meetings most of the day." Sarah's heart hammered. She knew the Donovans were crucial to Alexander's real estate expansions. Mia Donovan was the eldest daughter of that powerful clan, a shrewd businesswoman rumored to handle negotiations with ruthless efficiency. Sarah had never met Mia personally, but she'd heard enough about her. Brilliant, beautiful, dangerously ambitious. Stepping off the elevator on the top floor, Sarah moved down a corridor lined with contemporary art and glass partitions. From a distance, she spotted Alexander's corner office. Inside, through the partly open blinds, Sarah glimpsed a scene that made her breath catch. Alexander stood close to a tall, elegant woman with dark hair, cascading in perfectly styled waves. The woman's manicured hand rested lightly on his arm. From her body language leaning forward, a confidential whisper, the subtle brush of her fingertips. It was clear they shared more than a standard business relationship. For a moment, Sarah was rooted to the spot, her mind whirling. She tried to rationalize what she saw, telling herself, Perhaps it was just an entertained conversation. But Mia tilted her head, laughing softly, and Alexander smiled in a way Sarah hadn't seen in months. A pang of jealousy and betrayal twisted in her stomach. When Sarah finally found her voice, she rapped softly on the glass door. They both spun around, surprise evident on their faces. Mia quickly withdrew her hand, but her self-assured smile remained. Sarah Alexander said, clearing his throat. I didn't expect you. Sarah tried to calm her erratic heartbeat. I wanted to bring you lunch, see how you're doing, she replied, lifting the small basket in her hand. She glanced between Alexander and Mia, forcing a courteous nod. Hello, Ms. Donovan. Mia turned, offering a dazzling smile. She was every bit as gorgeous as the rumors suggested, dressed in a tailored designer suit that accentuated her willowy figure. Nice to meet you at last, Mrs. Whitmore. Alexander speaks of you often. Oh, that's nice, Sarah lied, her voice subdued. Tension rippled in the air. Alexander seemed to sense the awkwardness. He grabbed the basket with forced enthusiasm. You shouldn't have, Sarah. I was just about done here. Mia and I were finalizing some figures. Mia's phone buzzed, giving her a chance to gracefully excuse herself. I'll leave you two to enjoy lunch. We can continue tomorrow, Alexander. She gave Sarah a courteous nod before gliding out of the office. The second the door closed, Sarah's composure began to slip. She glanced at Alexander, noticing the slight flush on his cheeks. He looked guilty. You're working closely with Mia Donovan, I see, she said softly. He set the basket on his desk. It's purely professional. The Donovans are crucial to our expansion plans, and Mia is the family's representative. His voice carried an edge of defensiveness. Sarah lowered her gaze. Then why didn't you ever introduce me properly? Why hide her from me? Alexander bristled. I'm not hiding her. You're just jumping to conclusions. Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes, but she refused to let them spill. I'm pregnant with your child, Alexander. I'm worried, lonely, and I hardly see you anymore. Am I wrong to feel hurt? He paused, then sighed heavily. No, you're not wrong. I've been under enormous stress. I've been working with Mia to secure deals worth billions. If we pull it off, it changes everything. And yes, we've gotten close, but only as business partners. Sarah studied him. She wanted to trust him, but the image of Mia's hand on his arm still burned in her mind. Her intuition screamed there was more to this story. She inhaled, trying to steady herself. Then, come home early tonight. Let's talk, really talk, about our future, the baby, your business, and us. Alexander hesitated, glancing at the city skyline beyond the glass wall. Then he offered a curt nod. All right. I'll do my best. Despite the tension relief flooded Sarah's chest, at least he agreed to try. Little did she know that the seeds of deceit had already been sown, and her unsuspecting heart was about to endure an agony unlike any she could have imagined. Late that evening, Sarah sat in the mansion's grand library, surrounded by ancient leather-bound volumes and the warm glow of a fireplace. The clock ticked past 10, and once again Alexander was nowhere to be found. Her phone buzzed, a single text from him. Running late. Don't wait up. Sarah's heart sank. All the hope she had felt earlier that day evaporated. She recalled the final glimpse of Mia's confident smile. Did Alexander go straight to her? The thought alone sent Sarah's stomach into knots. You should rest, came a gentle voice. It was Mrs. Alder, the family's long-time housekeeper, who had practically raised Alexander after his mother fell ill during his teenage years. At nearly 70, her kindly face bore deep lines of empathy. Sarah closed her eyes, pressing a trembling hand to her forehead. "I can't. My mind is racing." Mrs. Alder sighed, stepping closer. "I've known Alexander since he was a boy. He has a good heart, but he's got too many secrets. The Whitmore men have always been like that, obsessed with business weighed down by family legacy. Please take care of yourself. You have a baby to think about." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. She appreciated Mrs. Alder's concern, but felt powerless. She was caught in a gilded trap bound by love, loyalty, and a growing child in her womb. "I'll try," she managed, voice cracking, when Mrs. Alder left the library, felt impossibly large and silent. Sarah found herself wandering its aisles of books, running her fingers over dusty spines, seeking distraction. Each step she took carried her deeper into the labyrinth of her own thoughts. She remembered how Alexander used to read poetry to her by the fireplace, how they would laugh over late-night snacks, swaying to music in each other's arms. Where had that man gone? A faint scratching sound made her pause. She turned toward the hallway, leading to Alexander's private study. A line of light shone beneath the door. Strange, she thought. She was sure the study's lights had been off. Slowly, Sarah approached, her heart pounding in her ears. Could it be Alexander had returned after all? She opened the door a crack. The room was empty, but the desk lamp was lit. An envelope lay on the otherwise immaculate desk, addressed simply to A.W. She hesitated, torn between respecting Alexander's privacy and her desperate need for answers. Her gaze flicked to a half-open drawer that contained a small stack of letters. Curiosity, fear, anxious love. These emotions warred inside her, but she couldn't resist. She took a tentative step forward, drawn like a moth to a flame. Inside the drawer, she found correspondences bearing the Donovans' letterhead. One of them was from Maya Donovan herself. It read, "Alexander, thank you for the other night. It meant more to me than you'll ever know. I can't wait until our next private meeting to discuss the finer details, both business and otherwise." Sarah's breath caught. The words felt like needles piercing her heart. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to keep reading. There were more letters, cryptic references to our arrangement and future plans. Every line hammered home the possibility that Mia Donovan was not just a business partner. It was a direct contradiction to Alexander's reassurance that there was nothing going on. The evidence was before her eyes, stark and damning. Nausea rose, and she hurriedly shoved the letters back, terrified she'd be caught. For a moment she stood trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. Then she turned off the light and fled the study. In the corridor, she leaned against the wall, mind spinning. He's lying. He's cheating. He's betraying me and our child. The words repeated in her head like a broken mantra. Yet a part of her still clung to denial, whispering that maybe she misunderstood. Maybe those letters were out of context. But the aching dread in her chest refused such comforting illusions. Walking back to her bedroom, she felt an emptiness so profound that she couldn't summon the energy to cry anymore. She stripped off her jewelry, changed into a nightgown, and climbed into the massive bed that felt colder than ever. She wondered where Alexander was and if he was in the arms of another woman. Sleep finally overtook her in the early hours, but it brought little peace, The same question taunted her dreams. When will he tell me the truth? The next day, Sarah awoke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. She lay there, recalling the letters she had read, her stomach churning. Faint morning light washed over the bedroom's pale blue walls, a gentle contrast to her dark thoughts. She ran a hand over her belly, whispering a soothing mantra to the baby, trying to calm her own frazzled nerves. A soft knock at the door startled her. Elise poked her head inside, concern etched on her face. "I'm sorry, but you weren't answering your phone." "I was worried." Sarah managed a small smile. "It's okay, come in." Elise moved swiftly to her friend's side, eyes flicking to the half-eaten plate of fruit from last night on the bedside table. "You look exhausted. Are you feeling all right?" "Not really," Sarah admitted. She thought about telling Elise everything. The letters, her fears. But a part of her was still reluctant. It was as if saying it out loud would shatter any lingering hope. "I'm just dealing with a lot." Before Elise could press further, Mrs. Alder's voice called from the hallway. "Mrs. Whitmore, there's someone here to see you. She insists it's urgent." Sarah frowned. "Who is it?" "It's Miss Mia Donovan." The name sent a jolt of adrenaline through Sarah's veins. Elise's eyes widened. What in the world is she doing here? Sarah swallowed hard. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." Within minutes, Sarah and Elise were in the parlor where Mia Donovan stood by a bay window, dressed in a sleek black ensemble that struck a perfect balance between professional and seductive. She turned as they entered, fixing Sarah with a cool, confident gaze. "Mrs. Whitmore," Mia greeted her tone polite, but edged with undisguised superiority. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." Sarah measured her words carefully. "I must admit, I'm surprised by your visit." Mia offered a thin smile. "I can understand that. Let me cut to the chase. I'm here regarding Alexander." Elise bristled. "Is that so?" Ignoring the friend, Mia continued. "There's a very important business matter Alexander and I have been discussing, and it affects you." She stepped closer, locking eyes with Sarah. "He's making moves that will change Whitmore Holdings forever. The Donovans are fully invested in this, and I've grown quite close to your husband through the process." Sarah's pulse raced. "I'm aware of your professional ties, Ms. Donovan." Her tone wavered. "What's so urgent that you'd come to my home unannounced?" Mia's expression flickered with something like pity. Or was it triumph? "I thought it best you hear it from me first. There's speculation that your marriage is not as stable as it once was. I want to ensure that my family's partnership with Whitmore Holdings isn't jeopardized by personal drama." Elise scoffed. "Personal drama? That's quite presumptive of you to barge in here and talk about a marriage you know nothing about." Mia turned her gaze to Elise with a small smirk. "I'm sorry." "Who are you?" Elise jutted her chin, unafraid. "I'm Elise Banning, Sarah's best friend." "Well, Ms. Banning," Mia said, crossing her arms, "let's just say that I care about Alexander's well-being. I see how his marriage problems weigh on him day in and day out." Sarah felt tears rising. The audacity of this woman to show up at her home, speak so brazenly, and claim to care about Alexander. She's more than just a business associate, Sarah's mind echoed. She's come to stake a claim. Drawing a shaky breath, Sarah looked Mia in the eyes. "What exactly are you implying?" Mia stepped forward, her perfume drifting in sweet, heady waves. I'm implying that I've been a friend to your husband, a shoulder for him to lean on. You have your own life, your pregnancy, your concerns. He's felt overwhelmed by it all. I've helped him carry that burden. A flicker of rage ignited behind Sarah's tears. Her child fluttered in her belly as if sensing her distress. If my husband needs assistance, he can come to me. I'm his wife. Mia's lips curved into a half smile. Are you, though? He doesn't seem to think so. Elise took a threatening step. Watch your words, Ms. Donovan. Sarah is pregnant, and she doesn't need your poison. Mia turned her head slightly. I'm only here out of concern. I want you to know that if your relationship continues to deteriorate, it might affect everything, including the Donovan-Whitmore partnership. I'm just being transparent. This partnership is bigger than personal issues. The Donovans won't tolerate any instability. Sarah's voice trembled with suppressed anger. I appreciate your concern, but your personal involvement with my husband is not your family's business. Whatever is going on between Alexander and me is ours alone to fix. Mia studied her for a moment, then turned as if to leave. You're right, Mrs. Whitmore. It's between you two. But remember, if you can't keep Alexander happy, there are others who will. With that parting shot, Mia strode out, her heels clicking on the polished floor. Elise stood stunned, fists clenched. Sarah sank onto the sofa feeling faint. Tears threatened to overwhelm her, but she fought them back. Mia Donovan had come here to send a message loud and clear that she wouldn't be hidden or sidelined, and that threatened everything Sarah held dear. Elise rushed to her side, pressing a cold hand to her forehead. Sarah, breathe. Don't let her get to you. But it was too late. The seeds of doubt and fear Mia planted had taken root, and Sarah's mind reeled with a torrent of questions. How long? How serious? Was this just a fling or something deeper? Could Alexander truly abandon her and the baby for this woman? Her world was cracking open, and she felt powerless to stop it. Soon enough, the painful truth would come crashing down in ways she never imagined possible. 2 days passed, a tense lull during which Sarah tried to function normally, despite the emotional tempest raging inside. She needed answers from Alexander, but he had flown to Los Angeles for an emergency business trip, one that, according to rumors, Mia Donovan also attended. Sarah consoled herself with the possibility that it really was business. After all, the Donovans had major developments in that region. Meanwhile, whispers spread among the mansion staff about Sarah's increasingly fragile state. The stress was taking a toll on her pregnancy. She visited her obstetrician, Dr. Candace Miller, who implored her to avoid unnecessary anxiety. Your blood pressure is spiking, Sarah, Dr. Miller warned. You have to take it easy for both your sake and the baby's. But how could she relax when her marriage was unraveling? Elise stayed by Sarah's side whenever possible, offering comfort and distraction. They binge-watched old romance flicks, took short walks around the gardens, and tried out prenatal yoga routines. Yet the question always loomed. Where is Alexander? Late one evening, while Sarah attempted to read a parenting book in the living room, her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. She answered hesitantly. Hello. A sultry voice responded. Mrs. Whitmore. It's Mia Donovan. Sarah's heart lurched. What do you want? I thought you should know that Alexander and I have returned from L.A. Mia purred. He asked me to come to the mansion tomorrow to finalize some paperwork. I just wanted to ensure that was convenient for you as mistress of the house. The words stung like a slap. Mistress of the house, while she sees herself as mistress of my husband. Alexander didn't inform me, Sarah said, her voice straining to remain composed. But it's fine. Our home is open for legitimate business. Mia gave a soft laugh. Excellent. See you tomorrow, Mrs. Whitmore. The line went dead. Sarah's pulse pounded, an anger bubbling that felt dangerously close to hatred. Mia was intentionally poking at her wounds, and the fact that Alexander hadn't even bothered to mention the meeting left her feeling betrayed yet again. That night, Sarah barely slept. She paced the bedroom, her mind a cacophony of doubts. Around 2 a.m, the sound of a car door outside jolted her. She hurried to the window. Indeed, Alexander was home. She saw him stepping out of a sleek black sedan. Alone. She threw on a robe and rushed downstairs, catching him in the foyer. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, tie undone. "Sarah," he said, startled to see her. "Why are you still up?" She bit back a caustic reply. "Because I haven't known where my husband is for weeks. That's why." Instead, she said, "We need to talk." With a heavy sigh, Alexander headed to his study. "Fine. Let's get this over with." They settled into chairs across from each other, the desk between them like a battlefield line. His guarded expression set her on edge. She stared at him, trembling. "Alexander, is there something going on between you and Mia Donovan?" His jaw clenched. "Why would you ask that?" Her eyes brimmed with tears. "She's calling me, showing up, making insinuations. And I found letters, private messages, where she's talking about private meetings and more personal matters than just business." Alexander shut his eyes momentarily, frustration etched in every line of his face. "Sarah, I admit I've grown close to Mia through our negotiations. She's ambitious, talented, and yes, I find her company refreshing at times. But you're exaggerating." Sarah's breath hitched. "Refreshing. I'm your wife, Alexander. I'm carrying your child. Do you realize how humiliating it is for me that she flaunts her relationship with you?" He looked away, fingers drumming on the desk. "Mia's father is vital to expanding Whitmore Holdings. Her family invests billions. She's my key point of contact. We've been spending a lot of time together. But is it just business?" "It's complicated," he said, voice low. Sarah felt as though the ground beneath her was crumbling. "Complicated how I can't risk losing this deal. My father's old expansions nearly bankrupted us. This new partnership with the Donovans is saving Whitmore Holdings. If I don't keep them happy, keep Mia happy, we could lose everything. So you're telling me you're sacrificing our marriage for your business?" Alexander's shoulders sagged. "I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm trying to protect what's ours. Maybe I crossed a line, but it was never." He stopped short, but it was too late. Sarah could see the guilt in his eyes. Her heart pounded, tears breaking free. "Never what you're telling me, it's not an affair. But you crossed a line. So what do I believe?" Alexander stood, abruptly pacing across the study. "I'm sorry, Sarah. My intentions were never to hurt you. I just wanted to fix the financial mess to ensure our child has a secure future." Mia found ways to help. We started confiding in each other. Maybe it went too far emotionally, but... She cut him off, voice trembling with equal parts anger and heartbreak. "Too far emotionally. That's betrayal." and you let her humiliate me in my own home." He turned back to her eyes, full of conflicted remorse. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. You think you're the only one under pressure." She practically screamed, tears streaming. "I'm pregnant, Alexander. I'm terrified about our future. I needed you more than ever, and you turned to her instead." Silence enveloped them. The only sound was Sarah's quiet sobbing and the ticking of a grandfather clock. Alexander rubbed his temples. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'll fix this. I promise." She shook her head, chest heaving with sobs. "I don't know if I can believe anything you say anymore. I'm so scared." He stepped closer, his presence a mixture of familiarity and betrayal. For a moment she considered letting him hold her, but the memory of Mia's letters and the smug voice on the phone hardened her resolve. Sarah brushed past him, leaving him standing in his own study, with regret in his eyes. The heartbreak inside her felt like a tidal wave threatening to drown her. Tomorrow, Mia would come again, and the confrontation promised to be even more volatile. She wondered if she had the strength to face it without shattering completely. Morning arrived sooner than Sarah anticipated. She barely mustered the energy to dress, finally choosing a loose floral sundress that accommodated her growing bump. Her reflection in the mirror startled her pale cheeks, red-rimmed eyes. A deep sadness lingered where once there was a hopeful glow. By mid-morning, staff members scrambled about making refreshments and ensuring the mansion's parlor was spotless. Word had spread that Mia Donovan would arrive for a critical meeting with Alexander. Despite the official reason, the undercurrent of tension was palpable. Sarah sat on a velvet couch near the parlor's large windows, sunlight streaming in and illuminating the opulent space chandeliers, polished floors, lavish drapery. None of it brought her comfort anymore. She felt like an actor in a grim play, forced to watch as someone else stole the show. At precisely 11 o'clock, the doorbell chimed. Within moments, Mia Donovan appeared, a vision of composure in a designer pantsuit and sky-high heels. Her hair was swept into a sleek chignon, emphasizing her regal cheekbones. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Sarah. Mrs. Whitmore Mia greeted, as if greeting an acquaintance rather than the wife of the man she had entangled. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sarah forced a polite nod. "Ms. Donovan." Alexander arrived just then, all polished in a charcoal suit tie, impeccably knotted. He gestured toward the parlor's coffee table. "Shall we get started?" The staff discreetly withdrew, leaving the three of them in oppressive silence. Mia opened a leather-bound folder and began discussing property proposals. Terms like equity stake, ROI projections, and expansion timeline filled the room in an attempt at normalcy. But behind Mia's eyes was a flicker of amusement, as if she thrived on the tension. Half an hour in a wave of dizziness swept over Sarah. She tried to focus, but the combination of stress and pregnancy sapped her strength. She rose to excuse herself. "I'm sorry, I need some water." Mia offered a smirk. "Should we take a break? You look a bit faint." Alexander shot Mia a warning glance. "Sarah, you okay?" She nodded weakly, despising how pitiful she must have seemed. "I'll be fine. Carry on." But as she headed to the door, Mia's voice followed. "Before you go, Mrs. Whitmore, there's one detail relevant to you." "Alexander, should we mention the potential relocation?" Sarah froze, turning back. "Relocation? Mia folded her arms. The Donovans are establishing a major branch overseas. We might need Alexander stationed there temporarily for oversight. Sarah's eyes flicked to her husband, who stood rigid. Alexander, you never mentioned that. He cleared his throat, avoiding her gaze. It was only a preliminary idea. Nothing's decided yet. Mia pressed on. I think it's more than preliminary. My father and I see it as essential. You'd need to relocate for at least 6 months, maybe a year. Sarah's heart dropped. Leaving for 6 months? She was due in just 5 months. The mere suggestion was unthinkable. You are leaving me while I'm pregnant, she whispered. Alexander stammered. I told Mia it wasn't ideal. Nothing is final yet. Mia gave a small shrug. Business is business, unless your wife has an objection that can outweigh a multi-billion-dollar deal. That was the final straw. Rage flared in Sarah like a lit fuse overshadowing her dizziness. She stepped toward Mia, voice shaking. You have no right to speak to me about my marriage, or my child. You've done nothing but cause strife in this household. Mia raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. I'm only reporting facts. It's Alexander's decision whether to stay or go. I won't force him. Sarah's temper snapped. You are not the sole decision-maker here. This is my husband, my life, and my child. Alexander moved between them. Sarah calmed down. But Sarah wouldn't be silenced. She glared at her husband. I'm tired of being calm. I'm tired of you letting her push you around, push us around. If your business means you have to break your family apart, then what good is it? Mia let out a soft laugh, stepping around Alexander. My. Hormones are running high. You might want to watch your stress levels, Mrs. Whitmore. It's not good for the baby. In that instant, Sarah felt a sharp pain grip her abdomen. The world tilted. Fear seized her. She clutched at her belly breath, hitching. Something's not right. Alexander lurched forward, gripping her arm. Sarah Mayer's mocking expression faltered. Hey, are you okay? Sarah tried to speak, but her vision blurred, the edges going black. A rush of panic flooded her system, and the room spun. No, not the baby. Please, was her last conscious thought before her knees gave way. She collapsed onto the polished floor, the sound of her body hitting the ground, echoing in the ornate parlor. A collective gasp filled the air. As darkness overcame her, she barely registered Alexander's voice, shouting her name, or Mia's sudden alarm. She slipped into unconsciousness, her final thought a desperate prayer for her unborn child's safety. Sarah awoke to the sterile scent of disinfectant and the soft beep of medical equipment. Her eyelids felt heavy, her throat dry. She blinked, recognizing the stark white ceiling panels of a hospital room. For a moment she panicked, forgetting why she was there. Then it all came rushing back, the confrontation with Mia, the pain collapsing on the floor. She struggled to sit up, and a gentle hand helped her. It was Elise, tears brimming in her eyes. Thank God you're awake. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. The baby, is everything okay? Elise nodded quickly. Dr. Miller says the baby is all right for now. You have elevated blood pressure and stress levels. They want you on bed rest for at least a week. Relief coursed through Sarah, though her body still trembled. She looked around, noticing that Alexander was absent. Where's... My husband Elise's expression tightened. He's out in the hallway making calls. He's been here the whole time, pacing. Sarah lowered her gaze. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her: anger, betrayal, longing. "Can you get him?" "Of course." Elise stepped outside, returning moments later with Alexander in tow. He looked drained, dark shadows under his eyes. His usual polish was gone. His suit jacket was wrinkled, his tie askew. "Sarah," he said softly, approaching the bedside. "I'm so sorry." She looked at him, tears threatening once more. "I was so scared. I thought I lost the baby." Alexander swallowed hard. "The doctor said you and the baby should be fine, but you need to rest. They want to keep you here overnight for observation." Silence stretched. Elise shifted uncomfortably, then excused herself to give them privacy. Once alone, Sarah closed her eyes. "I can't keep living like this, Alexander. It's killing me, killing us." He nodded, eyes cast down. "I know." She inhaled shakily. "I need the truth. Please just tell me what exactly happened between you and Mia Donovan." Alexander leaned against the bed rail, his voice low and tormented. It started off purely professional. Then over late-night meetings and shared frustrations, we formed a connection. We never slept together, but there was an emotional attachment. He ran a hand through his hair. Mia hinted that if we were involved, it would secure the Donovans' commitment to Whitmore Holdings. I felt the pressure to do whatever it took to save the company. Sarah's mind reeled. "So you led her on?" "Yes. I let things get too personal, but I never intended to leave you." His voice cracked. "But Mia has her own agenda. She wants more control, more power. She wants me to herself." Sarah stared at him, equal parts furious and heartbroken. "You should have come to me. We could have found another way. Instead, you betrayed me." His shoulders sagged. "I know. I regret it every second. But I was terrified of losing everything: my inheritance, our home, our future." Tears slid down Sarah's cheeks. "Your future? What about mine? Our child's? Do you know how lonely and scared I've felt?" Alexander sank into a nearby chair, burying his face in his hands. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything to fix this, to prove I love you." She hesitated, remembering Mia's triumphant expressions, her threatening remarks. "Mia isn't going to let you just walk away from this." He met her gaze. "I don't care. I'll fight her if I have to. I realize now I was blinded by ambition and fear. But nothing, no deal is worth risking your health and our baby." Sarah lay back, exhaustion weighing heavily on her. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Alexander." His eyes brimmed with tears. "I understand, but I'm going to try to earn your trust back if you'll let me." Just then, Dr. Miller entered, checking Sarah's vitals and calmly announcing that her blood pressure was stabilizing. "You still need rest. Minimal stress, please," the doctor warned pointedly, glancing between them. Sarah closed her eyes, a swirl of emotions swirling in her chest. Even if Alexander was repentant, Mia Donovan was a force to be reckoned with, and trust once shattered was hard to rebuild. Could she risk her heart again for the man who had nearly destroyed it? A week later, Sarah returned home. Despite the doctor's orders for bed rest, she found it impossible to ignore the tension in the household. The staff tiptoed around, anxious not to disturb her. Elise visited regularly, offering emotional support. and Alexander hovered, clearly desperate to atone, but equally unsure how to approach his shattered wife. By that weekend, Sarah managed to walk gingerly through the mansion's corridors, maintaining her composure. She was determined to reclaim some sense of normalcy. But her newfound calm shattered when Mia Donovan showed up yet again unannounced. This time Mia's face lacked its usual smug smile. Her eyes burned with anger as the maid ushered her into the parlor where Sarah rested. Sarah braced herself, hand instinctively going to her belly. Mia wasted no time. "Where's Alexander?" Sarah glared. "Out, thankfully." Mia crossed her arms. "He's been dodging my calls. I have urgent business matters to discuss." Sarah forced a neutral tone. "Is that what you're calling them now, urgent business matters?" Mia's gaze darkened. "This goes beyond your petty jealousy. The Donovans are pulling out of half the deals we brokered because Alexander won't uphold his end of certain understandings." Sarah's throat went dry. "What do you want from me?" Mia glanced around the lavish room. "Tell your husband to honor our arrangement or face financial ruin. If Whitmore Holdings loses our partnership, everything falls apart. I heard the banks are already on edge about your father-in-law's debts." Sarah's mind whirled. "Are you blackmailing him?" Mia smirked. "Call it persuasion. The Donovans have a lot of power. And I have influence over Alexander. He knows it." A flash of defiance flared in Sarah's eyes. "You can't expect me to push my husband into your arms for the sake of business." Mia stepped closer, tension crackling in the air. "Listen, sweetheart. You have your baby, your sweet little wifely life. Let me handle the rest. I can help Alexander keep Whitmore Holdings afloat. You can keep your status, your mansion, your precious child. All you have to do is look the other way." Sarah's voice trembled with outrage. "You're asking me to share my husband?" Mia shrugged, unapologetic. "I'm offering a practical solution. Our arrangement can be discreet. Many high society couples live like this. I get what I want. You keep the ring on your finger. Everybody wins." Sarah felt sick. The sheer boldness of Mia's proposition was monstrous. "That's not a marriage. That's a sham. And I won't stand for it." Mia's eyes narrowed, her veneer of calm fracturing. "Then get ready to watch everything crumble. We'll strip your husband's company. You'll be left bankrupt with a baby to raise and no resources." Tears burned at the corners of Sarah's eyes, but she refused to give Mia the satisfaction of seeing her break. "I'd rather have nothing than lose my dignity to a woman like you." Mia gave a cold laugh. "Suit yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you." She turned on her heel and left. Sarah collapsed onto the sofa, breathing raggedly. The conversation had confirmed her worst fears. Mia Donovan would do anything to claim Alexander, using the company's future as leverage. And while Sarah knew Alexander was trying to make amends, could he withstand the financial devastation that might follow, torn between loyalty and self-respect? Sarah wrestled with the impossible dilemma. Stand firm and risk total ruin, or allow her marriage to be twisted into an ugly compromise that would haunt her forever. Neither choice felt survivable. 2 days later, Sarah joined Alexander at the Whitmore Holdings boardroom. Tension crackled as Mia Donovan, flanked by her legal team, took her seat. The meeting began with polite updates, but quickly turned when Mia delivered her ultimatum. "My family will withdraw funding unless Alexander honors our personal understanding," she said, her tone smug. Sarah's stomach turned. Everyone understood the implication: surrender the marriage or lose everything. Alexander stood steady and clear. "This company values integrity. I won't trade my family for a deal. If that means losing your investment, so be it." Mia's mask slipped. "You'll regret this." "I already do," he replied quietly. Gasps rippled. Mia stormed out, threatening lawsuits. Chaos erupted, but Alexander remained calm. Back home, Sarah looked at her husband with cautious admiration. He had chosen her, not business, not reputation, her. The cost was high, but the truth mattered more. The storm wasn't over, but for the first time they were facing it side by side. In the weeks after the Donovan fallout, Whitmore Holdings faced a financial storm. Stocks dipped, lenders grew anxious, and Alexander spent long nights searching for investors. The empire his father built was crumbling. Sarah stood by him tentatively. Her trust was fragile, but she saw he was trying. She helped where she could, managing calls and offering quiet encouragement, though her priority remained the baby and her own healing. One night, she found Alexander buried in reports. He looked up, weariness etched into his features. "There's one offer," he said. "A British firm wants in, but only if we give up majority control." Sarah knelt beside him. "Then maybe it's time to let go. Control doesn't matter if we lose everything." Tears welled in Alexander's eyes. "I'm sorry for everything, Sarah. I never meant to hurt you." She squeezed his hand. "We're not perfect, but we're still here." That night they embraced for the first time in months. Not everything was healed, but something had shifted. For the first time in a long while, they felt like a team again. And for Sarah, that was enough to keep going. 3 days later, Sarah and Alexander received an unexpected visitor, Catherine Donovan, Mia's mother, and the true power behind the Donovan empire. Inviting her into the library, they braced for more conflict, but Catherine had a different agenda. "I've heard disturbing things," she began calmly. "If Mia used personal leverage to secure this partnership, that's unacceptable." Sarah explained Mia's manipulations and threats. Catherine's expression hardened. "I suspected as much. She's ambitious to a fault. But I don't condone her actions." Alexander looked cautiously hopeful. "Then what now?" Catherine nodded. "I'm prepared to renegotiate cleanly. Mia will have no involvement moving forward. The Donovans value integrity, and I believe we can do business without entangling personal lives." Relief swept through Sarah. After all the chaos here was a chance at redemption, not just for the company, but for their family. Alexander agreed. "If we move forward, it's on terms of mutual respect. No more secrets." Catherine stood to leave. "Then we have an understanding." As she exited, Sarah felt a weight lift. With Mia finally out of the picture, a path forward emerged, not perfect, but promising. In the weeks that followed under Catherine Donovan's guidance, the partnership stabilized Whitmore Holdings. With Mia exiled to a minor project overseas, peace returned to the Whitmore household. Alexander worked relentlessly to rebuild what he had nearly destroyed: his company, his reputation, and most importantly, his marriage. He showed up for board meetings, employees, and especially for Sarah. Sarah still on partial bed rest, focused on healing physically and emotionally. With Elise's regular visits and Dr. Miller's praise for her lowered blood pressure, she slowly reclaimed her confidence. "He's really changing," Elise noted. Sarah simply nodded. "We're trying." On their anniversary, Alexander arranged a quiet dinner. No fanfare, just honesty, and a shared vow to do better. Eventually, the big day arrived. Sarah went into labor, and Alexander never left her side. Hours later, they welcomed a healthy baby girl, Amelia Grace Whitmore. As Alexander cradled their daughter, his eyes shimmered with tears. "She's perfect," he whispered. In that moment past, betrayals faded. Their family, once on the brink of collapse, now had a fresh start, rebuilt not on perfection, but on forgiveness, resilience, and love. What can we learn from this turbulent story of betrayal, heartbreak, and eventual redemption? Sometimes even the strongest of bonds can be tested by ambition lies and outside temptation suhu. But as Alexander and Sarah discovered, true love requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to fight for each other, even when the odds feel overwhelming. Their journey reminds us that genuine partnerships, whether in business or marriage, thrive on respect and open communication. And in the end, standing firm for what truly matters can inspire unexpected allies, as Catherine Donovan demonstrated. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional roller coaster packed with drama twists and the ultimate triumph of family over ambition. If you found this story captivating, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support allows us to continue bringing you more fascinating tales that prove real-life dilemmas can sometimes mirror the most dramatic fiction. Together, let's keep exploring stories that touch our hearts and remind us of our own resilience.